Welcome to the January 28th City Council meeting, 6:30 p.m., City Council Chambers. We'll start with the prayer. Dear God, today's the session opens. We pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction, which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. We salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counsel Getchia.
Here.
Counsel Janess. Counsel Mercia. Counsel Noon.
Here.
Counsel Robinson.
Here.
Mayor Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Scott.
Here.
Counsel Yem.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Counsel Chow.
Here.
Counsel Dakota.
Here.
I'm present.
Moment of silence. No? Councilor Robertson?
Thank you. Like a moment of silence, please, for Miguel Angel Gonzalez. Miguel Angel Mickey Gonzalez, 49, passed away unexpectedly at his home on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. He was the beloved husband of Christina F. Silvera Gonzalez, with whom he shared 27 wonderful years. Born on November 6, 1975 in Lowell, Miguel was the son of Susan Beausoleil Gonzalez of Lowell and the late Cesario Gonzalez. He grew up in Lowell, graduated from Lowell High School. For over 25 years, Mickey was a dedicated representative of the local 429 Laborers Union. He took great pride in his work and was deeply committed to the union and its members. His dedication and strong work ethic left a lasting impression on his colleagues. Miguel had a vibrant personality and a gift for bringing people together. Known for his quick wit and infectious laughter, he was the life of every gathering. He loved spending time with family and friends, especially playing cards and sharing jokes. Mickey was the glue that held his family close, making everyone feel loved and supported. In addition to his wife, Christina Rodriguez, and his mother, Suzanne Lowell, Miguel survived by his two cherished children, Alexia Gonzalez, a student at Greater Lowell Technical High School, and Miguel A. Gonzalez Jr., a student at St. Michael's School. He also leaves behind 10 siblings, Christina Gonzalez and a companion, Jamie Torres in Nashua, New Hampshire, Maria Sengrat and her husband, Pin Sengrat of Lowell, Gina Jimenez and her husband, Rudy Jimenez of Lowell, Cesar Gonzalez and his wife, Elizabeth Rocha of Dracut, Johnny Leduc of Lowell, Lisa Leduc of Lowell, Gregory Leduc of Litchfield, New Hampshire, Carmela Leduc of Lowell, and Jolanda Leduc of Lowell. Miguel's also survived by his in-laws, Honoria and João Silveria of Lowell, Herberto Silveria and his wife, Ruth Emily Silveria of Lowell, his cousin and dear friend, John Diaz of Lowell. Many aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends, including Jeff Thomas and Amy Salas, who will forever hold his memory close to their hearts. All are welcome to attend his visitation on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. at the McDonough Funeral Home. Procession to follow the visitation. Thank you, and may all those that passed since rest in peace.
Thank you, Councilor. Any others? Mr. Clerk, please document the chamber. May rest in peace. We're on section 2, Mayor's Business 2.1, communication remote Zoom participation. The motion to accept the place on file by Council Belanger, second by Council Chow. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Section 3, City Clerk 3.1, minutes of the City Council regular meeting, January 21st for acceptance. Motion to accept the place on file by Council Dakota, second by Council Getchia. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Public hearings will be at 7 p.m. this evening. Moving on to Section 5, City Council motions. 5.1, Council Belanger requests City Manager work with Property Department and/or utility company to address overgrown trees along Andover Street. Seconded by Councilor Yem. Council Belanger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I did receive some contact from a few constituents along Andover Street where the trees are overgrown, in some cases blocking street signs and utility wires, so it's getting getting to be a little bit too much, so if the manager's office can have the proper department go up there, take a look, and maybe contact the utility company as well, I think it'll be helpful. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Getchia?
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. Through you to Manager Golden. Over 2 years ago, we put in a motion, and it was voted on by the council to create a tree committee. Do you know where we are on that, or is it something that we're still looking at doing?
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, to the council. We're still dealing with that through DPW at this time. So the arborist is still the commissioner of DPW. As far as the tree committee, he is kind of he oversees all of that at this time.
Well, a tree committee such as like from residents, not from inside sources, employees, like a three-person committee, they could do an inventory. They could do exactly what Council Belanger is saying. They could look at them, say if the tree's healthy, not healthy. If it's something we still can continue to look into. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.2, Councilor Belanger. Request city manager outline the process in which city funds are deposited into local financial institutions and current balances. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I, along with my colleagues, I'm sure, very curious to know where the taxpayer money are deposited into local financial institutions. And I think it's very important that we're transparent to the taxpayers. And just wondering, Mr. Mayor, through you to the managers, just how are we going about this process? Are we, local banks, when I made this motion back in 2014, we had local banks that were owned locally. We all know Lowell 5 has relocated headquarters to Tewksbury. The recent acquisition that's going to take place at Enterprise Bank. So are we going, Mr. Mann, just wondering the process, are you taking a more business approach searching for the best interest rate and the best deal for the city, or are we, helping out local banks, which are also very charitable in our local community? So I know there's a few things you need to consider. So I would just like to know the process and what your administration is thinking and how you go about putting taxpayer money to local financial institutions. I think we're all curious to know.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.3, Councilor Belanger. Request city manager update the council as to the relocation of the Lowell Transitional Living Center. Second by Councilor Noon. Councilor Belanger.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We, it's been a hot topic as of late, the shelter, as we're trying to, there was a motion just last week as to acquiring some more funding, but just wondering how you're making out with conversations, if there's any possibility of a relocation, and where you, Mr. Manager, where you might be with that. So, curious to know the response.
Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And how hopeful are you with any future relocation?
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.4, Councilor Belanger. Request city manager update council on the Lord overpass as to buses and public safety vehicles using emergency lane as well as light synchronization. Second by Councilor Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, could we combine motion D along with that in the discussion?
Motion response.
Motion.
Yeah, motion response.
Motion response D. All those in favor, by Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Belanger.
Thank
All
you.
in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. I'll also take motion response D. Councilor Belanger, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is sort of similar to Councilor Dakota's motion response. That's on the floor tonight as well. But I was on the WCAP last Wednesday morning, and a few constituents called in saying that they've noticed that, emergency vehicles aren't using the emergency lane, which it was created for. I haven't seen that, but this is what I'm told by a few constituents. As well as the light synchronization, not so much for the emergency lanes, but for normal vehicular traffic, is that it seems to take a long time to get through just a 2-3 light sequence at this intersection. That I have experiences. I mean, look, it's all good. It's a beautiful, that overpass now has been totally transformed. It's very aesthetically pleasing, a gateway into the city. So, there's a great big picture here at the same time. But just curious to know, in particular, the light synchronization, what's the process there and how can we speed it up so it's in sync with everybody going one way at certain times of the day. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Ms. Altman, thank you for being here. I did read your response. I appreciate it. I guess you were kind of put in this situation because I still am very frustrated with what the outcome is at this point. I know that funeral homes and Trinity have the access to change it green at any time. The police and the fire do not, but they still access that. If you are on Dutton Street, just passing Broadway, and you're stopped there, and you want to go up to the Rotary, it's 3 signals changes to get to the top. I'm wondering if there's a possibility if we could look at possibly carpooling, because if you're going to use that lane, go straight ahead, right, all the way to the connector in Gorham Street. Could we possibly, and I know it'd be difficult to enforce, but why not break that up so we wouldn't have that backup at 4:30 to 5:30 every afternoon? So I'm wanting to hear from you on that.
Ms. Sullivan?
Hello, if I may. The way that the bus lanes are signalized right now is they are a through movement that go with the rest of the through movements to hopefully help a bus queue jump, essentially. So if you're coming inbound, you could do that as an HOV lane. We'd have to figure that out. Coming outbound towards the connector, the way the bus lane ends, it ends as a right turn into Gallagher.
Right.
So it's on its own phase. It would, I could look at it. It would take some reconfiguring of things.
Just my thought is when we do go up there, and the first right is Middlesex Street, so people are in that right lane. But there's also cars that are in that right lane are then using the Chelmsford Street exit, which is confusing and dangerous at the same time. So I guess when you're looking at that, look at the whole, listen, I understand you inherited this, and this is, I don't know where the engineer gave the okay, who gave the engineer the okay for this, because it never made any sense. If the LRTA can't use half, 5 buses they're going to use this for? I mean,
Yeah, it's
doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
it's a little challenging how complex the whole system is. The Middlesex and Appleton Street is one big controller. That's one intersection. That's controlled by, usually that's, the controller usually only does like a 4-way intersection, right? Like a regular intersection. So we have one controller controlling all of that. It's very complex. So when one thing goes wrong, then we get a backup or
Middlesex, Jackson Street,
Right.
Middlesex Street, that taking a left, there's already been an accident or 2, I believe, there
yeah.
at this point.
It's so we keep reviewing it, keep looking at it. I'm probably going to have to reevaluate it all over again over the summer, and we'll keep figuring it out, keep tinkering with it.
All right. I appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.5. Councilor Yem, you want to do 5.5 and 5.6 together? By Councilor Yem, second by Councilor Scott. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.5, Councilor Yem. Request city manager have the appropriate department provide the city council on Smith Baker's containment, remediation, and demolition costs along with the timeline. 5.6, Councilor Yem requests city manager have the appropriate department provide the city council with any plan to save historical artifacts or retaining walls of the Smith Baker Center. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Yem. I'm sorry, we have registered speakers.
There are registered speakers, Mr. Mayor. Bruce McCauley.
Good to see you again, Bruce. You can speak on both motions, Bruce, okay?
Okay. I'm Bruce McCauley of 139 Methuen Street here in Lowell. Hear me okay?
Okay.
I'm on my 3rd historic restoration here in Lowell. My previous property was on Andover Street, the old Shaw Hospital Estate, which landed Lowell on the cover of Victorian Homes magazine. So obviously, restoration is extremely passionate to me. I didn't grow up in Lowell, but I choose to be in Lowell for the last 30 years. I'm proud of Lowell because of its accomplishments, what we've done historically with our structures. I've seen so much change, and it's beautiful, and I'm proud of it. And I think cities look up to us for what we've done. That being said, stuck in my own world, I didn't know that we were at the wrecking ball for the Smith Center. I posted something on Facebook, almost 500 responses. I think the city is a little bit shocked. I think we're in grieving that we're at this point. I also posted a petition with change.org. Right now we're at 78. That just started over the weekend. So I feel a tremendous amount of guilt and responsibility because it's not just on your shoulders. I think it's on the shoulders of the people that thought things were just being done. I knew there was a foundation. I knew it was a gorgeous building, and in my own world. I think with the people speaking up, I feel like we may need to have a pause. Give it a little thought. I've seen the engineer report. I'm not an engineer. I do know house restoration. So when I initially bought Andover Street, almost 8,000 square feet, Baker's a little over 12,000 square feet, I had 11 roof leaks. I did not have a furnace running. I did not have running water. When I got the water restored, I would flush the toilet, I would lose my power. So it's just an example of my passion on what you can do with the structure, and it's our history. The Baker Building is extremely unique as a Gothic high-style Victorian. It's been quoted as one of the most beautiful buildings that Lowell has to offer. We've seen restorations of other buildings in far worse condition. The Boston and Maine Railroad, which is the Nancy Richard Donahue Performing Center for Middlesex Community College. I'm sure every one of us drive by that and are proud of that structure and what happened. The community came together for that structure, and there was nothing left. I saw when they tore the back off, there was remaining walls. I don't believe the Smith Baker Center is in that kind of condition. Viewing the roof, slate roofs need continuous maintenance. Do we have buildings in Lowell that bricks fall off of? 100%. So I don't think it's that unique of a condition. I think it could be fixable. I think the interior also hasn't been viewed, but I think a pause, give the chance for investors, nonprofit, to view, make an offer, negotiate with the city. Because what is it going to cost to tear that down? Does it really need to be torn down? Should the taxpayers in the city be responsible for that? Give it a chance to pass it off to somebody else. So I just wanted the opportunity to speak for the people, speak for all the stories that I've been hearing. I've had a crash course on Baker, at Smith Baker, the last couple of weeks. I'm learning. But it's an example of how to protect what Lowell is, because there are other buildings endangered. I think we need to learn from it. I think we need to maintain our roofs before we get to a catastrophic case. I don't think this is catastrophic. You wanted me to speak to the second part of a restoration, all right, I'll keep going. If I'm not taking too much of your time. I would hate that we're not a complete tear down. Can the shell be used just like the railroad station, Boston, Maine? There's stained glass windows, there's light fixtures. Northeast Salvage I've worked with in New Hampshire. They've done churches, they've done brownstones in Boston. I think to photograph and capture what this building is before it were to go would be important to capture part of our history. Methuen Music Hall, pipe organ, I have them researching on the pipe organ that is in the church. I don't know if it's salvageable, worth anything at this point, but there are components of the building that should be salvaged, repurposed somehow. I hope we don't get to that. All right, is that good? You're welcome.
Dennis McCarthy.
Good evening, City Mayor Dan Rourke, City Councilors, City Manager Tom Golden. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Dennis McCarthy, and I live at 216 Foster Street here in Lowell. I want to thank all of you for the hard work and to try to find the best solution for this building. I personally still believe the Smith-Baker Center is fixable, as what I read in the Gale Engineering report. But at what price? That said, I'm here tonight to speak about the two motions filed by Councilor Paul Rath-AM. As was outlined by DPD last year in February, we're asking for a timeline and additionally a cost estimate to remove the Smith-Baker Center. It is important that we all know what is going into that demolition, and that this building, it might be a 7 to 12 month process, and it could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. We still could have time to do what was also discussed last year in February, and what was suggested by Councilor Rita Mercier and Councilor Corey Robinson, and that is to also put out an RFP to a developer along with the Gale Engineering report. Then we would have our final answer if there's any interested parties that want to repurpose our building. In addressing Councilor Yem's second motion, could the appropriate department look into historic parts of the building? I would ask if we could use our $45,000 one-stop grant that the city was awarded with the Smith-Baker, you're shaking your head. Well, anyway, let me finish. That was awarded with the Smith-Baker in mind to do the feasibility study and determine how the building could be reused. We have, as a city, owned this precious historic edifice for over 40 years. Let us make sure that, and I don't mean to imply anything by this, but let us make sure that taking this building down is the right choice. Just as an idea, I know that as an architect, I could design a solution that would retain the two most significant walls, the north wall on Merrimack Street and the west wall on the Green School side, and build 40 to 50 two-bedroom living spaces within. This new structure would rely on steel reinforcing to stabilize these historic walls and would preserve the beautiful facades and stained glass windows. I do not know the cost, and if there is an interested party that would take this on. And there are a lot of variables, particularly what would the cost for remediation be. I would just like to ask that we continue to use all of our tools and find what is best for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Councilor Yem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the speaker. It's first time I met Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. Your passion about restoring the old building. Like me, I grew up in Cambodia. We don't have this magnificent building like this. So when I came to Lowell, I fell in love with the city of Lowell building that we have. In 2019, I was fortunate enough to visit Paris, Notre Dame, before it burned. And I was thinking of the city of Lowell, similar kind of structure that we have here. The reason I filed the motion because most of my colleagues voted to demolish it, but we need to know how much would it cost to remove a contaminant in the building, a remediation, and then the demolition itself. My fear is that the city of Lowell may not have the fund to do it simply because we do not have ARPA funding anymore. And I foresee that the city will go through financial hard time because we do not have the federal support money that city used to receive previously due to the changes in Washington. So as a result, I'm afraid that the building's gonna sit there, look like this for the next 20 years, and that's what happened. And the second motion, just as Bruce was talking about, salvage something, because this building is registered with the Massachusetts Historical Preservation, and there's a certain guideline that MHP will require the city to do. And I would just ask that if we could, save some facade, maybe the front on Merrimack, and then if it come down to demolition, to save that as mementos to remember the Smith-Baker by. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And again, thank you for the speaker to come out.
Councilor Getchia?
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. Most of this stuff is done during the RFP when they go to take down, so I don't know why we would go and do it first and then come back and do it again. So this is part of an RFP. When you demolish a building, you look at contaminants and stuff like that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Giovanni, when you go out for RFP for demolition, what is included in that?
Thank you. Yeah, so the plan would be to include, we are soliciting information from vendors who do abatement work to try to understand what a potential abatement cost would be. That work is already underway, but we would essentially, probably try to encompass as much as we can. So the abatement work, the demo, the containment, all of that cleanup, leaving it at a point where we could have a clear and safe site would all be kind of wrapped up into a single RFP.
So we wouldn't know numbers until they started into the RFP process and it was closing and you start seeing those numbers roll in. I just think it's a waste of government's time to go out and do this prior to doing it anyway, so it's really subjective at that point because you don't have any real numbers at that point. It's all speculation at that point. Mr. Mayor, most of this stuff is something that would be done as you go through studies, and if there are history and artifacts in there, I'm sure that people would go in and try to save them long before as you're doing your inspection over there. The retaining wall, when you're looking at saving a retaining wall, that would be part of whatever the future plans are. It wouldn't be part of like today, what are we going to do and what do you expect to do with this? Because those designs could change with whoever either ends up with the property or the design the city comes through with. So those are not easily answered questions, and I don't know how you would answer those. So I would ask that the mayor take a roll call on each one because some of them just don't make sense to do, and it would waste city time and valuable resources, and then put you in a box on what actually you can or will do with that property in the end. Thank you.
Councilor Belanger?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to thank the speakers for coming down here tonight and their civic engagement. It's greatly appreciated. As well as a letter from the Smith-Baker Preservation Corporation, again in support and willingness to take possession of this and undertake an enormous task of trying to seek funding and manage the property, and that is immensely appreciated as well. But I understand this property here is pulling at heartstrings with many members in our community, and it's rightfully so. It is. It's a gorgeous piece of our architecture. I don't doubt that for a minute. But the Gale structure, the Gale engineering report indicates. I mean, it's vague in some areas to me, and I will regurgitate my comments from last week. That now structurally. I heard many comments. Structurally, it's fine. Well, we cannot say that with absolute certainty. Now, I'm paraphrasing now from the engineer's report, but it specifically stated that many, so I'm guessing well over 50% of the structural components of this building are covered by decorative features, and they anticipate much, much more structural degradation. That scares me. That could be very well run into the millions and millions. So there's a lot of unknowns here at the same time. I do appreciate Councilor Yem's motions. If it does come to this, if it's cost prohibitive, we'll wait for the report to come in as far as demolition. But in this one, it's heartbreaking, but I cannot vote with my heart here. I have to make a business decision, one that's practical, and one that's going to work for the next RFP or development, whatever it may be. So a question I have, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager's office or Ms. Baez, is the Gale engineering report, is that on the website for people to view by any chance? It is?
City Manager?
It was included in a council agenda, so it is
Yep.
available if folks look it up that way. We can also host it in a
Yeah, if you post
particular
it.
location on DPD's
Yeah, because I've been
page.
getting a number of calls, and yeah, if you could, Giovanni, that'd be greatly appreciated. But again, so I am not wavering. I still feel that it's unfortunate, but the building does need to come down. But at the same time, whatever we can salvage, stained glass windows, these moldings, these features are irreplaceable. You cannot replicate this building today. It's just not cost prohibitive. So whatever we can save, the facade, that's again, that is cost prohibitive for the next developer in line. I'm all in, I'm willing to do, to save whatever features that are salvageable that we could repurpose. So I'm going to support Councilor Yem's motions this evening, but I still stand on my decision that, fortunately, I feel the building needs to come down. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager or the assistant manager, Ms. Bays. I'd like to speak on the second motion by Councilor Yam, and I want to thank both speakers for coming to speak on this matter. As the previous councilors mentioned before, the historical artifacts, the artwork, the structure, it's amazing. I do have a question. If it were not to be safe as, within the building structure, if it goes to demolition and what to save as the wall or the windows artifacts there, would there be a possibility of removing some of the artifacts, some of the historical works, and donate it to the national parks?
That would be in a motion response, correct? That's the motion that asks.
Okay, wonderful. I just want to highlight that, and I think it'd be a great way to try to save these historical artifacts. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. Thank the speakers that came to speak on this. Greatly appreciated. Through you to Ms. Baez-Rose, how long, ballpark, do you anticipate before we can even draft the RFP for the demolition of this? I mean, I know there's a lot of moving pieces that are starting to come into play, and so how long do you anticipate that draft, ballpark?
Mr. City Manager?
I don't know, if I'm being honest. We do need to go through a process with Mass Historic and with HUD. Both of those conversations have already started, but there will be a sort of procedural process that we'll need to go through with both agencies. One of the questions that we actually have outstanding right now is whether or not those processes can be concurrent or they need to be one after another. So that'll significantly impact the timing of that. So it could be a while.
Thank you. And back to, so I mean, if our hands are tied with the process to even demo it, I mean, would it make sense to throw a 30-day RFP so at least now we tried? If there's nobody that can come in within 30-day period that has the $4 million to shore this property right out the rip, then I mean, it's a last ditch with the report. You need that $4 million to even consider, because it seems like based on that report, that's the bare minimum just to stop the bleeding somewhat, and it might be more than that. But to stabilize where it is that something that we could consider?
I would imagine usually the rules are when a motion is passed, you have 24 hours to file a reconsideration. And that happened 2 weeks ago, I think now, or a week ago, I'm not sure what it was. So I think that's where we are right now as a council is, the motion was made and it had passed to demo the, so.
Okay, no, fair enough. Thank you.
Council Noon, then Council Getcha.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to also thank the speakers, Bruce and Dennis, as well as the Smith-Baker Preservation Corporation and their committee, and those who are advocating for saving the Smith-Baker. The decision was made last week. I think it's fair in terms of the motion for Council Jam, the first motion, the timeline. I know that I've just heard from the Assistant City Manager, Giovanni Roses, that the RFP is going to, this discussion has been ongoing, but the RFP is going to be coming up, and will tell the timeline as to when the demolition is going to happen. So I will support the first motion. Then I'll support the second motion as well, the 5.6. It's sad to see that the Smith-Bakers is, taking down. As a council, as a city, we should do, or we need to do everything we can to preserve some of those beautiful artifacts, historical artifacts. So I will support the second motion as well. Thank you.
Council Getcha.
Thank you, Mayor. To the maker of motion 5.6, if you remove the retaining wall piece, I have no problem with supporting saving the artifacts. But saving a retaining wall and handcuffing the next development piece, if there is one, is kind of tough to put with artifacts. That's where my issue is with that second motion, the 5.6, is a retaining wall and artifacts, they're kind of tough. I can't take the retaining wall like an artifact and move it. That's the reason why I have the issue with that one. And in the first one, I think that 5.5 is already in the RFP process. I don't think it's going to be a problem with doing it. So we're just doing redundant work here. So 5.5 makes, their work harder. And that was just my point to 5.6 is the retaining wall piece, if the maker of the motion would remove that piece.
Council, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The artifacts is a separate things that that the city need to go through the process, because my understanding is that the property is registered with Mass Historical Preservation, and Mass Historical has a certain guideline. If we were to go ahead with the demolition, that the city need to go through the process of, identify all the items and then take pictures and all of that. That's from what we read in the motion response that we received back in February of 2024. The retaining wall, it's an option. I was involved with Councilor Noon, part of the Cambodian American League, to restore 60 Middlesex Street, where the Garnett's brother is. It's a historical building next to Washington Savings Bank. We save all the outside wall. Inside, we take it all out, gut it, and then make it into an apartment. And the piece that that just my thought, if developer can do to save like the facade in the front on the Merrimack Street, it's a beautiful design. So if it's possible, because developer can tell you without the cost of if I were trying to save that or if I just go ahead and knock it down. So leave it up to the developer, but it's my plea on my part to save a piece of the history of the city of Lowell. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To my fellow colleague, I'm listening to you, Councilor Yum, and it looks like that you're more of saving the historical artifacts. Is removing the retaining wall an option in this motion? Because I really think that with the retaining wall, we're looking at more and more money here.
Well, I mean, not to interrupt, but if the council, if the...
We've already, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, because we already voted on this.
I'm with you.
To demolish the building.
I think it would be for the clean slate as well, but the city's not going to, I don't think there's a motion to say, see the retaining wall, just if there's a plan. So the city comes back and says there's no plan for it, it is what it is, you know what I mean? So,
I would think that we would all be in agreement of saving the historical artifacts. I mean, I understand that, so.
yeah, yeah. Mr. Manager, go ahead.
So, Council, thank you very, very much, Mr. May, through to the Council. Council, there's a lot of confusion on, of course, we would always try to save any type of artifacts. But 7.2 tonight also has the $45,000 where we'd have the opportunity to provide a potential analysis. I think what Councilor Yem is discussing or trying to bring up is the retaining of the existing facade. And that's something that we are looking through mass development, which is on 7.2. If the council decides to support that, the Department of Planning and Development is requesting approval to apply and expend the technical assistance grant valued at $45,000 from mass development. The Smith-Baker study will provide an analysis of potential development scenarios at the site, including retaining the existing facade for new construction. So this is, it's a possibility that we could still execute if the council wishes to do so at the 7.2 vote this evening.
Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting both of Councilor Yem's motions. I think any way that we can preserve any of the history of the Smith-Baker Center, we should be trying to. I do think that the motion also just says a plan from the administration. It's not saying that we have to do it or anything. If they come back and they say that it's not possible, then that's what the response will be. So I do support, like I said, if there's a way for us to save the retaining wall, the facade, I think that's something we should try to do at all costs. Thanks.
Well, is there somebody else for Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just echo what Councilor Scott just said, that Councilor Jam also alluded to it as well, that he didn't say you must save the retaining wall. He's actually, okay if the administration said, look, we'll do what we can, but as far as the historical artifacts, yes, absolutely. And the managers mentioned the grant from mass development grant, yes, for that. So I think the retaining wall is possible, but if not, I think that's what seemed to be what Councilor Yem said. So that's why we should support it.
Councilor Getchia, wrap it up.
Mayor Rook, last week, these same motions were on the thing, and they were pulled off. And one of the reasons why is because of the plan piece, okay? So we have people in here who are not part of a preservation committee. They were put on, they removed themselves from last week to this week, and now they're pushing for plans. You can't put something on, and through you to the solicitor. Mr. Solicitor, when someone is looking as a nonprofit on a board trying to save a piece of property in the city, and then they put in file motions that are direct conflicts to, should they be putting motions forward, in your opinion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ultimately, the decision to do that is on the individual counselor. If what you're asking me is, if in doing that, does that align with Chapter 268A and the conflict of interest law? I do not believe that it is in line with that. It is my opinion that that is something that shouldn't happen. But again, the onus is on the individual counselor. It's not on me. That's just my opinion.
So last week we pulled them because we had divided loyalties between two entities, a nonprofit putting these things forward, and today we just delete ourselves in the middle and think it's okay to continue to do it, looking for plans. That's the issue. I agree with everything that's on here about the artifacts piece, but if we're going to go through this every single week with what's the plan for this, what's the plan for the contamination under the third rock over there? Here we are again and again and again on the same thing after we took votes. And it absolutely is a conflict of interest, as you're saying you would highly suggest it is. We all would. I mean, there's an appearance here, of an influence to go in a certain direction, and that's what we're doing here again. We 2 weeks ago, went through this. Nobody in here even knew that somebody was a vice president on one of these nonprofits. We bring it forward, boom, okay. The next week, we put the same 2 motions on the agenda. We pull them. We get pulled off of that nonprofit, and then we put them forward again, the same ones. There's absolutely an appearance, and there's also, the divided loyalties between your current position and others. I can't get paid as a city councilor, but yet so there are laws. And it's just wrong that we keep going around and around and around with this, and we bring good people out here, and I understand that we should be looking to save these things, and I agree with it. But now it's a plan, it's this, it's that. I would think the city's going to look into all of these things long before it goes. I would think that that's the goal, is the manager outlined in 7.2, it's all in there. So it's not like we needed more motions when it's in 7.2. I just think that we continue to walk down a slippery slope with this council, and we've already been to the state more than probably any other council, and we continue to do it even after your advice said, don't do it.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk, 5.5.
Mr. Mayor, this is on.
Council Getchia.
5.5, roll call.
Council Getchia.
No.
Council Janess. Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
No.
5.6, Mr. Clerk.
Council Getchia.
No.
Council Janess. Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
So the retaining wall piece is
Second, 5.6.
Yes or no, yeah. 5.6.
no.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
No.
5.7, Council Robinson, request, oh, sorry, I apologize. Go back to the, we have 2 public hearings this evening. It'll be past 7 p.m. 4.1, ordinance to amend Chapter 266-43, special speed regulations. We'll start off, those to speak in favor, in favor, in favor. That portion of the meeting is closed. All those in opposition, opposition, opposition. That portion of the meeting is closed. The motion to adopt by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Yem. Roll call.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess. Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
4.2, ordinance quarterly traffic, January 2025. I'm going to open the hearing for all those in favor, in favor, in favor. The portion of the meeting is closed. All those in opposition, opposition, opposition. The portion of the meeting is closed. The motion to adopt by Councilor Getchia, second by Councilor Noon. Roll call.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess. Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Back to the motions, 5.7, Councilor Robinson.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I please take motion 5.11 out of order, please?
By Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Getchia. 5.11, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.11, Councilors Robinson and Getchia. Request city manager, city council provide a letter of support in conjunction with our state delegation for the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Lowell's Believe and Become project to the governor and/or lieutenant governor authorize $5 million and $2 million amendments from the Mass Leads Economic Bond Bill and her capital spending. No second needed. Mr. Clerk.
Joe Hungler.
Thank you all. Joe Hungler, 178 Loose Street. I'm the executive director of the Boys. And first of all, you've all heard me talk about our Believe and Become project and the new construction. And I want to thank the council for all the ways they've supported it and the administration from Tom, Connor, Sean, Giovanni, Austin. The whole team has really, fire department, everybody has really been incredibly helpful. It's a pretty big project. And so quick update on where we're at. I have a couple pictures to show you of progress. It should show up on your computer screen shortly. Our kitchen is operational now. So it's adjacent to the Community Centering Cafe, which all of you have been in, and that is now finally being used as a cafeteria. We're able to bring that downstairs, and the kids love having that down there now. We can serve a lot more kids. Some of the boring stuff, elevator going in, the stuff that just has to happen, electrical things that work. And then the exciting stuff is the new teen center, and that's really the center point of our campaign. You can see on the computer screen here the view from Clemente Park of the side of the building. You can see the nice big windows that will be there to see into the teen center and into the park. The back view, because it's a two-story building, which doesn't necessarily show from the front. And then on the far right is the new teen entrance, which is taking shape, and our teens are incredibly excited to see this. I got to take a couple of them to see this the other day, and they were incredible. They just can't wait until June when this is going to come to fruition. In order to continue the project after the teen center is complete, we have asked to ask the council to support, send a letter to the governor and lieutenant governor authorizing our delegation did a great job getting us a $5 million amendment and a $2 million amendment in the economic development bond bill, and we need her to put it in our capital spending plan because she does not have to spend those amendments. She has 5 years to do it, and it can just expire. So we would like to be able to continue this construction as soon as the teen center is done, switch into this part of the project, which will allow us to become fully ADA compliant. A lot of the older spaces need to get brought up to code and to bring in some to make everything work. I mean, you know, our HVAC has been dying, our plumbing is at the end of its useful life, but also making the spaces better to achieve our vision of ending generational poverty. So I'm not going to go through every detail here. It's in writing there. And then the last two big pieces of it are to put the new entrance out towards the street and adding a black box theater. And all of that would allow us to expand our capacity from when we're done with the teen center, 450 kids, to being done with this, we'll be able to serve 600 kids a day for our capacity. So thank you for your support, and I just ask that you would encourage the governor and lieutenant governor to act on this. Thank you.
You got it. Good job, Joe. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I think everybody's well aware of this Herculean effort that the club has gone under, and they've been pounding the pavement. Everyone here has been super supportive, and I just figured if this is what we could do to assist along that journey, it's a no-brainer. So thank you.
Councilor Getcha.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I think this is more or less a motion from the entire council. You just couldn't put everybody's name on it. So I think this is really something that when you see the hard work that the Boys Club and all of the supporters have done to get to this point, it's something that we need. It's not really a want. And I think if we called every single city councilor, that's what this motion is about. So, Mr. Manager, I'm sure with your support, this can get done. Thank you.
Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Joe, and to the to your staff and the board for a wonderful work in the area. I'm very proud. In addition to that, is that because it's in my district as well, and it goes so well with the Cambodia Town renovation and the Clemente Park renovation as well. So it will enhance the Boys and Girls Club and the new traffic configuration and all of that. My two boys benefit tremendously when they were young, being members of that clubs, along with many other Southeast Asian family and the low-income family in that vicinity. Thank you for your good work and continue. And thanks to manager for committing some money from the ARPA to support the Boys and Girls Club. It's a great investment for this on the city parts to enhance the lives of the children. Some of them, Boys and Girls Club become the safe place for them to go because they don't have a safe home. So the Boys and Girls Club become the safe home with great support from the staff. Thank you again, Joe, for what you do.
Councilor Belanger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think the buy-in on this crucial project stretches far beyond this council and embeds itself into the community here at Lowell. This is something that everyone is talking about.
Hopefully it goes to the State House, Councilor.
No, absolutely. That too, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. But I had the luxury through Mr. Hungler, who I toured the facility just a few weeks ago and soon realized the importance that we need to make this project happen. by any means necessary. So the services that this is going to offer our teens in the city for something to do after school, the kitchen facilities, all the recreation services this is going to offer, that it has to happen. There's no two ways about it. So thank you to the makers of the motion on this. Get some more attention to the subject, and I have all the confidence in the world in you, Mr. Manager. You'll get it done. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Chow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to both makers of the motion for bringing this forward so the entire city can be aware of what's going on. I want to thank Joe Hangler for coming to speak on this situation. He invited the entire administration, entire council to tour the Boys Club last year. What a beautiful project it is, and Mr. Hangler, he's working very, very hard to make this project a reality. He's working with the local businesses, the partners, basically with everybody. And the last piece is to get the money to come to the project, to come to the Boys Club and the city to make this project work. And I definitely support this motion, as Mr. Hangler is working very, very hard to make sure that everybody's behind him. This is a great project going forward. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Joe, take care. Thank you for coming down. 5.7, Councilor Robinson. Request city manager have the proper department explain the current winter operations plan, including the citywide parking ban component. Seconded by Councilor Gitchia. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. For the most part, the motion speaks for itself, but I don't know if, through you to the manager, I know we're expecting some snow tonight, nothing major. We may be facing, we're not out of the woods yet. So I kind of wanted to bring light to the parking ban component and kind of let the public know how that works. I know when it's called for a parking ban citywide, there are some kind of decisions to be made once it's implemented. So if you want to wait to do this, or if you'd like to explain briefly before the motion response comes back, just that component.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Council, thank you very much for that. Let's hope that it's only a couple of inches, but God only knows what's going to happen with this weather. But really the point of the parking ban is to kind of make everybody aware of what needs to happen and to try to get folks, we realize that not in all areas this can work. In a lot of the districts inside, it is extremely difficult for people to find place. But what we're really encouraging people to do, my neighborhood does it. Hey, I have an extra spot in my driveway, please take it. To try to talk to your neighbors and try to get as many vehicles off the street as possible. And it also gives the police department the task, and believe me, it's not something that they love to do, to remind people that you just can't park on anywhere you want. I mean, when we have problems with trucks turning a corner, our Lowell Police Department does a very good job. Last storm, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, we had to tow 60 vehicles. I would probably venture to guess the Lowell Police Department had 3 times as many move once they go over to a neighborhood if there's improper parking, etc. So I know every now and then on social media people will talk about this, but the real point is to try to be neighborly, try to help your neighbors out if and when you have the ability to help people, because it's only going to allow our streets to be in better condition. It also allows us the ability, when we put a parking ban throughout the city, in the task that we don't want to do, but if we have to do it, it gives us the authority to actually make a tow. And that is what that's about. So I ask people always, 365 days a year, please pay attention to not parking on the corners. And I understand, I grew up in Centerville. It's a lot of tight streets, but especially, we should never do it, but especially during the winter months, we're trying to get some of those hill trucks to make those corners, and it cannot happen. Once again, kudos goes to the police department. They're involved. They're out there, blowing the horn, letting people know to move those cars, and I'd venture to guess they probably moved 3 times as many vehicles as they towed. So I want to say thank you very much to the superintendent for that and for all of his staff that do this. It's very uncomfortable, but public safety is the most important piece, and that's why that happens. And I wish I could, I think I'm going to come back as a weatherman, because, boy, they blow it sometimes, Counselor. There's only going to be an inch. Next thing you know, there's 5. I say that tongue-in-cheek, but, boy, it happens more times than you're not, than it doesn't happen. So I hope that answers it, but we'll get that information back to you, Council.
Councilor Chow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a good motion. I also through Mr. Manager. I also want to thank you and compliment the administration and the police department on the last snow ban. As you know, snow ban also affects small businesses throughout the day. And we talked about this before, how it impacts small businesses. If you have a ban early, people cannot park on the street while they're going to attend the businesses that they want to patronize. By having the snow ban a little bit later, if it's possible, during the day, like last time, it was at 10 p.m. or at midnight, it really complete the day, allow the small businesses to really serve the customers. So, that was a great decision. That was one of the main concerns that small businesses have in our city as to the time frame of the snow ban. So thank you for that.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.8, Council Robinson. Request city manager have the proper department explore any potential opportunities to create a public outdoor ice skating facility for our
I
residents.
second that.
Seconded by Councilor Yam. You skate, Councilor? Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I'm not looking for anything elaborate or even facility, really. It's if there's even a suitable location down the line that people think would be good to kind of flood out and let freeze, anything. A few people asked about it. Any opportunity would be a great opportunity. Thank you.
Councilor Dakota.
If I remember correctly, and maybe Councilor Getchia can, my memory, but there were years ago that Hadley Field was flooded. We did that quite a few years, but I don't know why it stopped. If there was some injury and to the city solicitor, let's say we did something like that and made skating rinks or, at certain ball fields around the area. What would happen if there was an injury? Would taxpayers hit us?
Solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think in that scenario, if we were to, set up an ice skating rink and we were to invite people there, certainly there can always be an issue of liability in those scenarios. I mean, oftentimes something as simple as a waiver to be signed by people who are participating is easy enough. It can be done. But without that, theoretically, yes, there could be some liability there. But truthfully, it would be easy enough to remedy with a waiver. It wouldn't be that heavy of a lift.
Central Park, you sign a waiver before you get on the ice. No? Councilor Chow, then Councilor Yem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Robinson and I filed this motion last year. We were in Montreal and we saw a beautiful outdoor skating. People came out and all the businesses surrounding the area. It's it's nighttime, it's cold, but I guess and it's attracting a lot of people. I'm thinking, like the Hamilton Canal District, there's certain area might be able to accommodate, a small skating rinks and stuff like that. And it could be, doesn't have to be city managed. It could be a private company coming in and making a business as well. And I think that's what Montreal, so we can check with them, see how they operate it. We don't have to redo it ourselves. We can learn it from them to see how they do and how they operate it. They are so successfully. So, thank you.
Anyone else, Councilor Getchia?
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city solicitor, the town of Lexington does it. So if you can look at maybe what their policy is, I know it's on their front lawn. I don't know if there's sign-offs. I have no idea about how they do it, but it's out there again this year. So maybe that's a pattern that you can look and see what the liabilities are. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.9, Councilor Robinson. Request city manager to have the property department explore offering a free property fraud watch alert system to the city of Lowell property owners in partnership with the Middlesex County Registry of Deeds, similar to that offered in Salem, Mass. Seconded by Councilor Chow. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. This was brought to my attention by a constituent. Salem is offering this in conjunction with the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds. And I think it's a voluntary program that the property owner would sign up to, but there is alerts that would be sent to them in the event that there is some kind of property fraud or anything about to happen. So I don't know if we can get a little bit more information on that and if it's something that we might be able to offer to our residents as well. Thank you.
Councilor Belanger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. No, I do appreciate the motion from Councilor Robinson. I intend on supporting it, but Mr. Mayor, through you to the solicitor, I'm just wondering if, Mr. Williams, are you aware of any instances in Lowell of title theft Have you been made any aware of any instances, out of curiosity, by any residents in the city?
Mr. Solicitor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of that. We wouldn't necessarily be made aware of that, but just in terms of have I heard anything, I haven't. That certainly doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but nothing that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, thank you. I was curious to know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Especially with the cyber stuff now, it's a good idea. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 510, Councilor Robinson. Request city manager to inquire with Congresswoman Trahan's office on any potential impacts on federally supported infrastructure projects due to current change in administration.
Second.
Example, the Rourke Bridge. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I know it's early on. We are all hearing bits and pieces in the media about potential impacts. I saw just today that some of the potential freezes, we don't know timelines on it. It could potentially impact EPA grants for clean water infrastructure, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Community Development Block Grant programs, amongst many others. I don't think anybody really knows for sure what we're looking at, but I think it's a good time to begin the conversations. And if we are looking at potential funding for projects in the pipeline getting yanked, do we have the capability of formulating a plan B, or at least working around what those inhibitors are going to look like? So I think it's a good time to try to dig in and get some of that information, if at all possible. Thank you.
Councilor Noon and Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Robinson. I don't know, maybe you have a crystal ball to see it. I mean, just this morning, I saw the motion, and then this morning, just saw the announcement from the White House of freezing all the federal grant loan and whatnot. The announcement certainly caused some confusion, panic, people and organization and city and town. So we don't know whether or not just this is a temporary pause or temporary freeze. But a lot of city and town like our will be impacted by it, and one of them will be Rourke Bridge, and we've been waiting for what 30-something years. Hope that it doesn't affect us. So thank you.
Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Around August of this summer, I asked the same question to Congresswoman Trahan when she attending the youth bill, CTI youth bill here on Dutton Street. I asked her the question of the funding that had been appropriate for all the projects in the city of Lowell, including the Rourke Bridge and the Tiger grants for the bridges. And she said, no, the money had been committed, so therefore it's already committed for the project. So she doesn't think that will affect it, even the changes in the Washington, D.C. So that's what my conversation, I asked her the same exact question, because I was afraid of what happened in Washington that may affect these grants. But she said that no, it would not, because it had been committed and it's already in the pipeline. So thank you.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just ask the maker of the motion if we just expand it to include all federally funded projects, not just infrastructure projects, CDBG funding, anything that right now we could see potential impacts from.
Projects and programs, I'd be fine with
Projects
that.
and programs. Thanks.
Motion amended. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Councils, we had a leadership meeting this morning with all the department heads and had this discussion exactly about this. We have approximately $31 million of federal projects or federal monies that could potentially be coming into the city. That is not including the Rourke Bridge. But we're keenly aware. Things changed a little bit today, this morning, with that announcement. Had been on the phone with Congresswoman Trahan. She's got her folks, her team, actively watching this. We'll be sending them a report that we have, and this means all CDBG monies, et cetera. So currently right now, once again, excluding the Rourke Bridge, which is much larger, but we're looking at approximately $31 million in CDBG monies, et cetera, going right through the list. We probably will have that list by the end of this, probably by the end of this week. Probably by the end of this week, to make sure that we could disseminate it if need be. But the Congresswoman, as well as both U.S. Senators, will be getting a copy of it as to how important it is that we stay on top of this.
Councilor Getchia.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the maker of the motion, could we also add Senator Markey to this? He seems like he always gets a pass on our questions.
I'm open to amendments. I expanded on that's going to encompass everything that I think, any information that we're going to need to know or should know ahead of time. I'm open to all amendments.
Mr. Manager, all avenues on board? All avenues you'll explore?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Yes, that will happen. I'll ensure that both senators and the congresswoman gets it. And, you know, we do have our finger on this, but this is changing as the moments go.
I just think, you know, Congresswoman Trahan, if we're going there, Senator Markey and Warren should be also on the
100%.
list.
We'll make that happen, if that's okay with the council.
All in favor, say aye.
Thanks.
Opposed, motion passes. 512, Councilor Getchia requests city manager provide the city council with the policy for all school duty requests, what is the structure for submitting a request, what positions actually receive the request, what is the structure for answering the request, what is the structure for distributing the work request, what is the policy for updating the person who submitted the request, and what is the policy for responding to the request and closing them out. Seconded by Councilor Dakota. Councilor Getchia.
Thank you, Mayor O'Rourke. I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. We're just looking for policy. If a principal or a teacher sends something through the work order system, who does it go to? How does it get from that person to the person who's actually going to look at the function and then complete the function? How does it get closed out and where does it end? Because some people are saying that they're not being told even though they put in the work order. So if there's, I'd just like to see what the policy really is. Thank you.
And Mr. Manager, we just had this motion, not to the detail Councilor Getchia, but a school do it at the school committee a couple of weeks ago, so I'm sure you can reach out to there. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 513, Councilor Dakota requests city manager investigate the feasibility of establishing a facilities department for maintenance of buildings. Seconded by Councilor Getchia. Councilor Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we had this discussion probably 3 weeks ago, maybe about a joint subcommittee with the school committee and our facilities subcommittee. And I'm wondering if you could facilitate that, Mr. Manager, and just because I know we're having a tour of Lowell High on the 15th, maybe we could get together either before or after, since many of the councils will be taking the tour, and I'm sure they want to talk about it anyway. So I'm just looking to start a conversation at this point, okay? I understand this is a heavy lift, but I think the conversation needs to be had. I thank you.
Councilor Robinson. Councilor Getchia.
Thank you. When we brought this up a couple years ago, you know, we did the joint facilities. I really think if we're going to get serious about establishing a facilities department, I know there's been conversations about the high school is like its own universe. That's a separate issue. I think the remaining facilities should be a centralized facilities department. And I'd imagine that I would urge the first steps in that conversation should be with the administration from both the school and the city side, as well as the unions. I think get into the table with your team, bring the school's team in, and bring the unions to the table, and start the conversation. Throw what we're looking for, the desired outcome, in the middle of the table, and start that. So that way you can try to both work to get to that middle. Thanks.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Councilors, I agree with this. This is something that the school committee themselves would have to take a vote pursuant to the Ed Reform Act of 1993. They would have to allow this to happen. So if it's the will of the council, I could speak with superintendent as well as potentially ask the school committee to look at this as well, or Councilor Dakota's idea is to bring both the school committee and the city council together in a joint facilities. I'm just wondering what the direction is the council would like me to take.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think? Obviously, chairing the school committee, what are your thoughts?
I think there's probably widespread support on both sides, but again, it's a negotiation issue.
Understood. I would make the motion that we set up a joint subcommittee meeting, and preferably on that day that we're doing the tour.
By Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Robinson. You still want to talk on it? Councilor Getchia? Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Getchia first.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councilor Getchia.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did ask this back before I think you were even city manager, back in February of 2022, and then we had a facilities subcommittee on April 12th of 2022. We went through a lot of the push and pulls, like you're saying, when you start trying to cross over. But I guess my question to everyone is, what's the goal? I think on the school side, they want better facilities. Well, it hasn't worked for 40 years, so if they want better facilities, we're giving them the avenue to do this. And here we are on this side saying, even back then, we talked about training. The minutes are right here, because I pulled all the minutes trying to see, okay, what did we talk about? We also talked about bringing in someone, a specialist who could help devise something like this. Back then, that was over almost 3 years ago now. Yeah, it's kind of, it went by so fast. When you look at these jobs, what happens is a lot of times we go out to hire people, and we hire them at a moment in time with the skill set that they have at the moment in time. And that's what happens to a lot of employees when they come into a structure, is they get hired at a moment in time, especially the lower end ones and some of the maintenance people. We expect their skill set to stay strong all the way through their careers without any human capital, and it just doesn't work that way. Everything changes, and they think as it changes, they're just automatically going to understand it, which that doesn't always necessarily happen. And then when you look across the way, we have schools that you're understaffed. What is the number of square footage a custodian should be responsible for? Is it the traditional 26,000 to 30,000? It wouldn't be if you have a gym to do, because it's easier to clean a gym than it is to clean a classroom. So there's a lot of functions that the mayor has been part of these facilities discussions for a long, long time.
Not to get you, I make a motion to put you in charge of negotiations, so.
And well, it is what it is.
I agree with you 100%. I'm with you, man.
Yeah, it just comes down to, if you want something, someone has to give in and make it happen. And I think that's the question is, these are our schools. I don't really care what anyone else says. I'm responsible for maintenance of those schools and making sure. So if someone doesn't clean the floor or do something else, and I can't respond to that, what's the point of me taking care of my school? It will deteriorate really quick. If there's a leak in the bathroom, what's the motive of the person to say that the sink's leaking all over the floor if it's not their responsibility to fix it or anything? So I think that we really, truly need this discussion again, and we're going to have to take a hardline stance at some point, whether it's their side, our side, whoever's side. I don't think there are sides. I think there's only one side, the school kids, and the environment that we put teachers and educators and administrators in. It will make the job easier for also the custodians and everybody else. So if we can do that, I think that's the important piece, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We'll be getting calls from the same person tomorrow, Councilor, get you. Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. And see, that goes back to my point earlier. We've met joint facilities in the past, and it's tricky because, again, I think people want the same outcome, but at the end of the day, the city owns these buildings. The city's on the hook for any costs associated with something that breaks down in these buildings. When, as we just saw, when there's mold and things that go on in these buildings, it's the city's responsibility to spend the money to remediate these problems. And so I think by initiating the talks from the building owner's perspective, facility owner's perspective, and bringing in others around the facility's owner's perspective as to the direction the facility owners are looking to go with this, it only makes sense. I mean, because the first step is really having that conversation with those that perform the work and laying down exactly what the facility owners are looking to do in the near future. And so it's only fitting that you and your team, I think, sit down and say, this is what we're going to be doing with our buildings that we're responsible for, and how can we work together to get to that point. Thank you.
Councilor Belanger and Councilor Noon.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Sorry,
Mayor.
I apologize. Let's get to what Councilor Noon earlier. Councilor Noon, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I think the push and pull thing is it has to do with we are not talking to the right group. There's two groups here. We're talking about the challenge that we have here too. Labor union and school committee. If both of them feel it's important for the children, it's important for the city to have a centralized facility, they have to give up. School committee vote to give up. They are control of the facility from the school part, the school side and the union okay it, this will happen. This will happen. So the manager can start a conversation, and hopefully, hopefully we can get this, going as a centralized facility for the school and the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate the motion tonight, my Councilor Dakota, and I mean, this conversation is many, many years old now. And I think we can all agree that as far as maintenance of our buildings, in particular schools, we haven't been very good at it. And we haven't been very good for a long time. So something needs doing the same thing over and over. Last I heard it was the definition of insanity. So something needs to change, and this could very well be it. So I think that this conversation needs to happen sooner rather than later. We're the ones that are responsible and have to pay for this maintenance. And so I look forward to the conversation as to the makeup of such a new department and cost estimates and all that. All that needs to be factored in. But nonetheless, let's get the conversation going. It is long overdue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Robinson?
If it's okay with the maker of the motion, I'd like to make an amendment to request the city manager just establish a facilities department for the maintenance of buildings. So once that department is established, he can begin the work and pull the pieces together as he sees fit, if that's okay with the maker of the motion.
By Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Dakota. And I think, Councilor Gitch's remarks sorry about this has been a couple of years. You've already had the subcommittee meetings. I think it's the right call just to go ahead and create it and put the manager and his team on the work to get it done. So all those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. On to communications from the city manager.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I suspend the rules?
Yes, Councilor Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, can we take 10.1 out of order?
10.1 out of order by Councilor Scott, seconded by Councilor Gitchia. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 10.1 petition. Miscellaneous. Patricia Kamara and Mary Beth Boo request to discuss status and safety issues regarding Doherty Court. Hi, how are you?
This is Mary Beth Boo. We're here on the matter of Doherty Court.
Sure, just speak right to the microphone and be all set.
Okay. All right. One of the issues is for several years I've lived there and the road has been being plowed up until recently, and I just found out it was deemed unsafe. And I just had some questions on that, and then I'm finding out it's not a city-owned road.
Okay.
But for several years.
Sure. You got done? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived on the street for 60 years. I live on Jennings Place. That is between, South Lowell Street runs parallel to Doherty Court. There's 3 houses there in between. I live on Jennings Place. That street has always been plowed. The police use it, Verizon uses it, National Grid uses it, and we're pretty much in trouble if it's not plowed.
And whenever there's an issue, I have called the city in the past, and they come right down. They remove trash off that road. They've fixed street lights. They've plowed when I've called in the past, up until this last storm.
Thank you. I'm going to go to our solicitor now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quickly, just with Doherty Court, it's not an accepted street. So it's not a public way. The city is in a butter because of the, 751 Lawrence Street, the fire station. So any obligation that the city actually would have legally to the road would just be to plow the portion of the road right in front of the firehouse. Other than that, there is no obligation for us to continually plow the street. That onus would fall on the property owners on the street.
So how we change it?
If we wanted to, we would have to move forward with accepting the street. And if the city were to do that, it would become a public way. And then obviously the burden would shift, and then the city would have to, would be obligated to maintain it.
The street is used a lot by a lot of the residents that do live in the neighborhood. They cut through it to get onto Lawrence Street because there are one-way streets. So how would we make it a city road or acknowledge it?
And how, I don't understand how you could just stop plowing after you've plowed for years there. I've lived there for 60 years, and I understand what you're saying. You're not obligated to do it. There's nothing I can do about that, but why change it now, since you've been doing it? Since you've been, I mean, I don't understand.
So, Mr. Machado, can you grab the information and can we take care of this? I mean, I know, Councilor Getty, go ahead.
So through you to the city solicitor, we went over this when I put in the motion probably 3 months ago, about accepted, non-accepted streets, and do we fix potholes, and do we plow during winter events? There are many, many in the city that we plow. So to separate one from the many because of and I understand what you're saying. The law says what you're saying, but that's not the case in the city. If an emergency vehicle needs to use the area, we plow streets that are unaccepted. In most streets in our city, it is extremely hard, and Doherty Court will probably never see it ever be an accepted road because of the width and the infrastructure underneath. So, Mr. Mayor, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, can we please put this back on the list for plowing? We do it to many in this city. I thank the residents for coming out here. I don't think there's a liability as long as we're doing it like we do all the others for emergency purposes for vehicles. So if this has been done for, how many years did you say? 40? 60, for 60 years, then I'm sure the manager and his staff can still get out there and plow that road for you. I think it may be an oversight.
Councilor Scott?
Thank you. I was just going to make similar comments. I was just trying to figure out what changed, if it's always been done. There wasn't a change in policy or anything, was there? That, like, is this just an oversight that someone stopped plowing the street? And if we can find out, it is
There are narrow streets. This is a narrow street, so I'm curious.
It is, but I mean, even I know it's
not
been
an
mentioned,
excuse,
even
it's saying
sanding it, like, or doing something to make it passable, needs to happen, because there are.
A plow would probably take out a chain link fence or two on the left-hand side there if you're going down. So, Mr. Manager, is this something we have, equipment that can get that done?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Looking at off of Griffin Street here in Agawam as well as South Whipple, this is more of an alleyway, right? And quite frankly, if it wasn't for Jennings Place, et cetera, which is probably 100 feet down, everybody else has some type of access until you get further down. This is something we'll personally go out and take a look at it tomorrow to see what we can do about it. There is a concern on the southern, I'm going to call it the southern side down by Lawrence Street, but down by the fire station. But we'll get back to you folks tomorrow. We'll make sure we drive it. I'm very familiar with the street. So.
It has, since then, the street has been cleaned up, and the way through it is now widened as well, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could have been an oversight by over in this area. Some of our city trucks do not go down those streets. They're just too big. So it could have been one of our the folks that we bring in privately, and they may have have just looked at this as an alley. Okay, so we'll get to it. I know Mr. Machado has all your information. We'll get to you tomorrow, and we'll get this rectified for the time being.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Excellent.
In the meantime, there's no...
Returning back to the list. Where are we here? All right. Communications to the City Manager 6.1 A, anti-bullying. This was a Councilor Janess motion that was filed. He did correspond not being able to be here this evening. If I could. You wanted to thank Mr. Minguez and the rest of the managers and HR staff for the work. It's an excellent step in the right direction and will create a better environment for all staff and participants in our programming. So he's very thankful for the response, Mr. Minguez. Any other, Mr. Councilor Yum?
I read the motion respond, and I could see the face of the lady who came up to speak before us regarding her son being harassed in the summer camp. I also can hear Councillor Janess' emotion in response to that. And my question, maybe, Mr. Mayor, to the city solicitor, if we could add that right now, the policy is for staff and other youth. Can we add that city councilor package. You know, every year we got reelected, sworn in, and can a councilor be also include and signing that kind of policy as well?
Mrs. Lister?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sure. Yeah, it's not a problem. That's something that can be included and can be signed by the councilors. Yeah.
So if I can make a motion that this policy be included for the city council as well. So.
By Councilor Yam, seconded by Councilor Scott. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. B, motion response, Lowell Police Department, Lowell Fire Department recruitment, Councilor Noon and Councilor Robertson.
Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the Lowell Police for this report back. As far as the fairs, the career fairs, I'm glad to see that they're doing a lot, and they previously hosted a civil service exam prep. I think those are helpful. They're scheduled to host one in March. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's going to be in time for this test cycle, but it is what it is. I just hope in the future, because we've heard quite a bit that it's difficult recruiting. The more we can do these assistances with the applications and the civil service exams, I think it goes a long way to kind of encourage people that might not, might be a little hesitant to try to sit there and apply. But I'm glad to see the outreach that they're engaging in. It's definitely a great thing. Thank you.
Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to Chief for your your effort in recruiting. One of the comment that I really like to make is the cadet program. Last August, I had an opportunity to represent Mayor Rourke to speak at the cadet graduation. All these young men and their family were there, and they were really into it. And I think this is where the impact, long-term impact by promoting the young generation in the police academy cadet program. And they were really well behaved and trained. My message that day was that I want them to be the change factor for their peers, to support their peers and to recruit other friends who enroll in the cadet program. It's a free program. They get food, they get to go places and all of that. So I really encourage the police department and the city to continue to provide funding for the cadet program. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Newman, from now
Mr. Mayor,
on, I'm going to go to you first for every response, okay? I apologize for missing your last.
No, it's okay, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's going to you, Councilor Newman, okay? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Hudon, for the report. It's nice to see your some of the work that you highlight in the report, that way to grow potential in-house candidate through some of this program. Some of them, Councilor Jem indicated, like internship program, citizenship police academy, cadet program, just to name those few. I know that Chief Hudon and his team has had a very good relationship with the community, minority communities and nonprofit and the like. One way too is that through Chief Hudon and his team to reach out to and ask some of those people that, in the community leaders, nonprofit and whatnot, to help him and help LPD identify, a good candidate, right, for academy, for all the other things. And I know that he mentioned some of the program here, some of the event here on the report that he will, and he or his team will attend, the way to trying to recruit young people to the academy or to take the civil service exam. The other way, and another way, I guess that the chief can do as well is probably find someone in his department, kind of, or in the community to put together more or less a recruitment marketing video, kind of, out there, either be on his police websites and or the city, and maybe also send it out to all those partner of his, from the community leaders to minority group, so, and as well as the civil service exam, maybe trying to do it, maybe not one, but two a year, sort of, maybe do it before the taking of the test, sort of. That probably will help. Thank you.
Motion response C, we're going to put off for a week. That's Councilor Mercia's. She requested that. Motion response D, we've already done. We have motion responses E, F, G, H, I, J, all with Councilor Scott, all concerning similar responses. We'll make a motion to bundle all those to speak on it now. Councilor Scott, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Councilor Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of these motions came after hearing from residents in that area about the traffic issues, the lack of lights. I'm thankful for the response from our traffic engineer. She did just a few highlights of it is that they are working on speed bumps in that area, Gene Ave, Hollis Street. I have seen continuous police enforcement out there every single morning when I get on the highway. I see an officer with someone pulled over at the stop sign there every single day. So I'm thankful for that. And it also talks about them bringing it forward to NEMCOG to do a unified planning study around the 495 Woburn Street area. So thank you, and thank you to the traffic engineer for the responses.
Motion response K, TOR LHS project.
You can bundle L with it if you like.
With LHS gym update, K and L. Councilor Gitcha.
Thank you for the report, and I look forward to February 15th at 11 a.m. Thank you.
I need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Yem. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Section 7, 7.1, a vote to accept and expend $50,000 FY25 FSE grant with a full reading and second reading by title. Vote authorize the city manager to accept and expend from the Massachusetts Department of Fire Services grant regarding FY25 firefighter safety equipment in the amount of $50,000 for the City of Lowell Fire Department. Motion to adopt by Councilor Gitcha, second by Councilor Dakota. Roll call.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess. Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson. Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanja.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
7.2, apply, accept, expend $45,000 mass development grant with a full reading and second reading by title. A vote. Authorize the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell, acting with the Department of Planning and Development, to apply and accept and expend funds from a technical assistance grant award through mass development for up to $45,000. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Gitcha, second by Councilor Yem. Roll call.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess. Council Mercia. Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson. Mayor Rourke. Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanja.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
9 reports, any subcommittees? Nope. 10.1's been taken care of. Petitions. 10.2, no singular wireless DBA AT&T request installation of one wireless small cell facility on an existing pole near 11 Crowley Street. The first reading, a motion to refer a public hearing on February 11th, 2025 by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Noon. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Motion to refer a public hearing February 11th, 2025, 7 p.m. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 8 was orders from the city manager. We have pulled that, and we'll bring it back in a further meeting. 11, announcements. Any? Councilor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the Lunar New Year. I want to wish, on behalf of the administration and entire City Council, those who celebrate the Lunar New Year, Happy New Year, prosperous and healthy new one. Thank you.
Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have two announcements. Councillor Chow already addressed that. I want to wish all those who celebrate the Lunar New Year 2025, Year of the Snake, the happiness, longevity, and prosperity. And also, I'd like to wish a happy and healthy birthday to our fearless Assistant City Manager, Machado. Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, Mr.
So many things to say right now, Mr. Mayor. There's so many things to say.
We have one more announcement to go. Who's doing that one? The birthday boy, go ahead. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Councilor Getcha, go first.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. This Saturday, February 1st at 11 a.m., Black History Month starts. The African American Community Collaborative will be hosting their annual flag raising on the steps of City Hall to begin celebrating this important occasion, and they invite everyone to attend.
I'll see you
Thank you.
Saturday. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Chow. Good evening.